ready? I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. The Planning and Zoning meeting of, excuse me. Hard to talk with this thing. They have the date here of June 25th, and I know that's wrong. So we're starting off wrong. What's the date? August 13th. Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation and the pledge of the flag. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us today as we deal with the business of the City of Leesburg. We ask that the decisions we made here today will be pleasing in your sight. We pray this in thy most holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay. Mr. Miller, if you would please inform the audience of the rules of participation that we have to deal with today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 13, 2020 Leesburg Planning Commission meeting. My name is Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning Manager with the City of Leesburg. Staff present today also includes Diane Pacewitz and Carrie Lee Murray, planners, and Candy Harper, senior planner. The agenda is on the table by the exit door. If you wish to speak on a case, we ask that everyone would please sign the speaker's registry also by the exit door. The rules of participation. The meeting is conducted under the following process. The chairman will announce the case. The staff will read exhibits into the record, which includes maps, photos, text, and present them on the screens that are down on my left. Staff will then read a recommendation into the record, and the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal. The chairman will allow time for public comments, and the applicant will also have an opportunity for rebuttal. The chairman will close the case to the public, and then the commission will discuss the case. A vote is taken, and then the commission moves on to the next case. The Planning Commission is an appointed board that makes either recommendations to the City Commission or final decisions based on the type of case being heard. The two zoning cases on the agenda will result in recommendations to the City Commission, and the variance case is a final decision today. There are tentative dates for City Commission hearings, which are listed in bold on the agenda for those cases that are going to the City Commission. We ask that you would please check with the Planning and Zoning staff or the City Clerk's office regarding the final hearing dates, as they are subject to be changed to earlier or later dates. Finally, whatever your position on the case is being heard today, on behalf of the City of Leesburg and the Leesburg Planning Commission, I'd like to thank you for your participation in today's public hearing process. Staff is ready for you to announce the first case, Mr. Chairman.
One order of business before that. Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of the last meeting of June 25th. Are there any additions, corrections, or amendments to those minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the June 25th minutes.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fitzpatrick. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries. First order of business. Public hearing case, SPUD. That's wrong. That's new business. We're going into old business. Y'all got this all out of order on me.
Public hearing case, PUD 19222, Sunnyside Landing, Planned Unit Development.
Mr. Chairman, we'd like to request that everyone be sworn in at this time.
Diane, anyone that would like to speak, please rise and raise your right hand, and Diane will swear you in. We understand that there is a spokesman for the group.
Land use to see.
The next map is a zoning map, which shows you the current zoning of the largest part of the property under review tonight, which is PUD, and there's a smaller part that is not yet annexed into the city. So the next map will show you the Lake County zoning around the property, which is, generally speaking, it's R1 around the immediate area, and a little bit of R3 just to the south of the property, considered for annexation. And the future land use shows clearly where you can see the color, with the exception of the lake, is already inside the city limits. So inside the city limits, the land is estate residential and conservation immediately around the subject property. And then Lake County future land use shows around the subject property both rural transition and rural land uses. And those surrounding land uses tend to support what you see on your zoning map and the future land use map. Mostly single-family residential, some pasture land, some public land, and institutional land uses. And the wetlands and the flood zones map will show you what is wet out there and how much is wet, and what the wetlands look like out there. The next map is a community redevelopment area. It's along US 441. And that is the 44127 CRA. And then we get into posting the property. So we take pictures where we post the property, and then we take pictures around the property, showing you across the street from where we posted, north and south along the roadway. And we posted this property, I believe, in about 4 different places. So again, that's posting the property and then shooting across the street and then along the right-of-way in each direction. And we take close-ups to ensure that we have all of the appropriate information on the posting. And again, shooting across from the subject property and then along the roadway in front of it. And I believe this is the last one. And we do have a key map that shows little stars where those signs could have been found along the roadway. And with that, Mr. Miller, that's all I have.
Thank you, Candy. So with that, we move to the departmental review summary. This project application was sent out to all the different departments of the city. There were no substantive comments received back on this request. Under public responses, We actually did get 2 for approval, and then numerous disapprovals. To sum up those concerns, they were basically roads, traffic, land values, density, provision of infrastructure, wildlife, natural environment, schools, a number of others, but those were the main ones that came up the most often. Obviously, there's a number of people here to comment tonight. I would like to begin with reading the recommendation and then going over the planned unit development. Under the City of Leesburg Planning and Zoning Division recommendations for the Sunnyside Landing Project PUD Planned Unit Development number 19-222, Planning and Zoning Division recommends approval of the request for the following reasons. Number 1, the proposed request for a PUD zoning with a single-family lots is compatible with the current surrounding zoning districts of Lake County R1 Rural Residential, Lake County R3 Medium Density Residential, and City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development. 2, the proposed request for a future land use of estate residential is compatible with the adjacent future land use designations of Lake County Rural Transition, Lake County Rural, and City of Leesburg Estate Residential. 3, the proposed zoning designation for the site is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element goal 1, objective 1.6. The action requested is to vote to approve the proposed rezoning from Lake County R1 Rural Residential and City of Leesburg PUD to City of Leesburg PUD Plan Unit Development and forward this recommendation to the City Commission for consideration. Under the PUD Planned Unit Development conditions for the Sunnyside Landing case, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just go over briefly the conditions that are noted herein. It allows a maximum of 159 single-family residential units on approximately 137.35 acres. This is all platted single-family residential proposal. The permitted uses are detached single-family residential. That's it. The prohibited uses would include townhouses, condominiums, multifamily, which is apartments, any commercial uses, and any other uses that are not specifically listed herein. The lot sizes proposed in the plan include 70 and 80-foot widths. All lots east of Sunnyside shall be a minimum 160 feet wide. All lots west of and immediately adjacent to Sunnyside shall be a minimum of 80 feet wide. On the 70-foot lots, there's a minimum house size of 1,800 square foot. On the 80-foot lots, it's 2,000 square feet. For 150-foot lots, the minimum house size is 2,400 square foot. Each house is required to have a minimum 2-car garage. There are design and architectural standards as in all PUDs. Landscaping and buffer requirements include a minimum 25-foot planted buffer provided along the east and west side of Sunnyside Road boundary of the property. Under site access, the project shall be provided an access point from Sunnyside Drive. This access shall be divided into a boulevard-type entrance, which means landscaping in the middle and at least 1 lane in each direction. All access points are subject to review and approval by the appropriate permitting agency, which includes Lake County. Each access point has to have a decorative entry feature of concrete, brick, or stucco and a wall at least 5 feet in height. Under transportation improvements, all necessary traffic improvements within and adjacent to the development as required by Lake County must be completed. And the remainder includes stormwater and drainage, wetlands, flood zones. For example, a wetlands average upland buffer of 25 feet, so there can be no intrusion into the wetlands. A wildlife management plan is required. The use of St. Augustine grass under irrigation and water usage is prohibited. The use of Bahia, Bermuda, and Zoysia is permitted. There are recreational requirements within the PUD, and water and wastewater services are required to be provided. There are no septic tanks or wells permitted on the property. With that, Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending approval. Mr. Greg Beliveau and Mr. Mike Rankin of the Land Planning Group of Mount Dora are here representing the project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carry on, Greg.
Good afternoon. And I see some old faces. Unfortunately, you're all covered up. It's a sad chain of events. I sat through an hour and a half debate in the city of Mount Dora over a mask. They're trying to figure out how to come up with punitive punishments if we don't wear our mask in Mount Dora. And that's where my office is. So we've gotten into a habit over there of having to wear them all the time, except when we go in our office. So,
Let me interrupt you. I gave Greg permission to take his mask off while he spoke so we could understand him. Please forgive him.
So let's get to it. This application is basically a renewal of a previous PUD that was approved on the site. The previous PUD was approved for 120 units on approximately 121 acres. We actually found a PUD that had for 121 lots, but we don't know. Ultimately, we're assuming it was the 120. There was a subsequent agreement, developer's agreement or annexation agreement a year later with the City of Leesburg that also outlined the requirements for utilities, water, central water and sewer, connectivity as well. So that previous PUD outlined a similar requirements for the development of this project as has been outlined by Mr. Miller tonight. The changes from that PUD to this PUD is the addition of the 18 acres on the east side of Sunnyside Drive and the addition of the 18 lots that are there. And we brought that total from 120 to 139, and we added a few additional lots. And the reason for that is that we found when we had to extend the water and sewer, it's really the addition of the sewer line, which was not anticipated in the original annexation. The original annexation, when it was originally annexed, was extension of the central water. The central sewer was added a year later with that additional agreement. When that extension of the sewer was added, the cost of extending the sewer line was an additional burden into this project, and that cost has to be incurred by this project. And that cost is a cost of development that has to be borne, and the additional units is therefore available to pay for that additional cost. That's brought us to 159, which is an additional 35 units to the original approval of 120. That's all the change is an addition of 35 units. The project is on Sunnyside. We have a full environmental analysis done on the property. We keep getting emails from folks living out there that we have these critters out there. Our expert biologist has been out there subsequent times after his initial environmental assessment in response to the additional emails we receive to investigate the additional sightings of whatever critter we're told is out there. He verifies whether in fact we have eagles or don't have eagles. As of last week, we do not have eagles on the site. They're still off-site. There is an osprey nest in the old house that's across the street, and we have pictures of it. We do have gopher tortoises, as every vacant tract in basically Central Florida does, and we will have to go through the permitting process as every development has to go through prior to development, and go through the proper permitting and removal process when that occurs. That's a given. And we know we have them and approximately how many we have. The next step we went through was the transportation analysis. Yes, we did pay for a transportation engineer to go through the process of what is the condition of the level of service, and is our project going to do anything negative to that level of service? And to the intersections. They analyze the intersections in the area and the level of service and the capacity of Sunnyside, as well as Sleepy Hollow and the other roads in the area. After that analysis, this isn't me, this is an actual traffic engineer consulting firm that does this for a living, found out that no, we do not negatively impact the level of service on the roads. I was waiting for that. Chuckle if you must. That traffic analysis was reviewed not just by the City of Leesburg, but other experts who analyzed the level of service analysis and agreed with it. So that's not me, that's not Dan Miller, that's not just the City of Leesburg, that was also Lake County. So we do not degrade it. In fact, at peak hour, our level of service with 159 homes, the in traffic is 137 at peak hour. At peak hour is 116, and going out is 68. That's all it is at 159 units. The fact is that with 159, we aren't building 300 units, we aren't building 500 units. We're only building 159 units. It is deceptive on the amount of traffic that is producing, but our traffic analysis has been verified and reviewed. You can giggle and think it's whatever you think, but there are models that are used that go through this process, and those models are evaluated. The land use and zoning has been gone over by the City of Leesburg. The estate residential, which has actually been approved by the Department of Economic Opportunity. After this was annexed in originally, a comp plan amendment was processed by the city, sent to the state, and the state came back and approved this comprehensive plan amendment. And giving it estate residential allows up to 3 units per acre. We're not asking, obviously, up to 4 units per acre. Okay, well, that's even better than what I just computed for math. And we're not asking for those kind of densities. We're strictly asking for a little over 1.1 unit per acre, and that's all. The fact that that's all we're trying to do is trying to utilize this property pretty much close to what it was previously approved for. The design of the property we took into consideration. If you can pull up the PUD, please. That one's on yours. Right there. If you look at the design of the plan unit development, we took all the larger lots along our boundary. The lots that are on the eastern track are basically equivalent to 1 unit per acre on those, because there's only 18 lots on 18 acres. The perimeter lots are the large lots. We put a lot of green space, open space along our perimeter, because we were cognizant of the fact that that's where some of the homes that abutted us were located. And we also put some open space as well. In working with the county on Sunnyside, you'll notice at the curve, we have a water retention area and some open space. The county wants to mellow out that curve. They feel that curve is a little abrupt, and we're open to them to give them some right-of-way on that curve to make the curve a little more passive so it isn't so abrupt going around that curve. I've had other developers work with Lake County to do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing on Lewis Road off of 468 on another project. We're going to donate the right-of-way to the county to go ahead and make that possible. They do not have a design yet. We'll work that out when we get to the next stage, if we get there, when we get to the platting stage. We're going to be donating right-of-way there. The previous developer, when they did the 120 units, already donated right-of-way along his eastern boundary along Sunnyside, so they don't need any more right-of-way there. And we'll just have to donate some more right-of-way on the eastern side on where we're going to annex in that property. And work with the county on doing the road improvements along all our property line for that portion of Sunnyside. The comments that I've heard in previous meetings and in community meetings with some of your representatives, this project in no way can bear the burden of fixing all of Sunnyside Drive. It's 159 lots. There's no way on God's earth that we can do that. This is a county road system. This county road system is not now failing as a level of service road. You may feel that there are areas of this road need to be improved because of a standard of maintenance or standard of pavement. I lived in a subdivision for 20 years that had that same problem. And I bugged county commissioners, and I bugged Public Works, and people in my neighborhood bugged them to go ahead and make improvements to the road. That was the only way improvements could be made to the road. The improvements that have to be made to Sunnyside are a community-wide improvement effort, not one to be made by any singular developer. There have been other projects that have been developed out there in the recent past, and there's no way that any singular developer can do anything to improve the complete road system of Sunnyside. That takes a team effort of all the citizens of Sunnyside to go before the district commissioner and other commissioners and the Public Works as a unified group and lobby for those improvements. And that's all I can offer you for that guidance. This project does not in any way, shape, or form qualify as being the one to fix those roads. We don't have a negative impact to the level of service. Only when a project has a negative impact to a level of service and deteriorate the levels of service to C, from a C to a D, or a D to an E, or an E to an F, does a jurisdiction have the leverage to do that? We don't trigger any of that. And with that, I'll be glad to sit down and start taking notes as I listen to your comments on traffic, as well as others that I know are forthcoming. And I've tried to lay a foundation to some of those topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. My understanding is that, Murray, did you want to start first, or do you, Zach Broom? No, Zach Broom. All right. I'll call on Zach Broom to speak for the attorney speaking for the Sunnyside Association.
Good evening. Do you mind if I take this off while I...
Please.
Thank you. Whew. Good evening. For the record, my name is Zach Broom. I'm an attorney with Bowen and Schroth in Eustis. I've been retained by Mr. Murray Tucker to be here tonight on behalf of some of the residents. I'm not going to address a lot of the factual concerns that I know some of these other people are going to raise about the day-to-day activities. My presentation is more focused on the law, the code, and some of the history of what's gone on in development out there. Most important, I think, for tonight is going back to resolution by the City of Leesburg number 7158 from June 28th of 2004. Back when this area was being annexed into the City of Leesburg, there were a lot of concerns by the residents about development coming into that area as part of annexation. As part of that, the city created a Sunnyside task force to create a task force study report. And in resolution number 7158, the City Commission explicitly accepted the recommendations, and in that resolution stated, quote, "It is the express intent of the City Commission by passage of this resolution that all further development within the study area over which the City of Leesburg has control will proceed in accordance with the recommendations set forth in the Sunnyside Task Force Study Report unless otherwise approved by the City Commission." Going over some of what we've heard tonight as a preliminary matter in the staff report and the matters presented by the applicant, I did not hear fact findings that all of the proposed development was consistent with this report. And the reason I bring that up is the Sunnyside Task Force addressed transportation and density. And the area that we're talking about on the map, it's a little unclear, but it appears right on the boundary between very low and low density. And very low in that task force report is 1 unit per 3 acres, and low is 1 unit per 1 acre. They talked about implementation being done through annexation agreements and restrictions on developers. And on transportation, one of the recommendations, and this is on the last page, page 10 of the report, transportation, number 6, quote, roads need to be able to support development or be upgraded prior to new development. And they talked about the right-of-ways that would have to be dedicated for preservation and protection of pedestrians and increased traffic as a result of development. That's important because going into 2005, when this property was formally annexed, in the annexation agreement dated October 19th, 2005, and this is recorded in public records, the PUD that's been talked about was attached as a condition, and on page 1 of the annexation it stated that it was incorporating the planned unit development conditions as part of the annexation agreement. As was briefly alluded to, the annexation agreement had a 1 unit per acre gross density. The application before you, I believe, is at a 1.2 gross units per acre density. What's important is if you go to the last page of the PUD, and I believe it's in section F, under miscellaneous conditions, the implementation of the project shall commence within 24 months of approval. Again, we're talking about 2005. In the event the conditions have not been implemented during the required time period, the PUD shall be scheduled with due notice for reconsideration by the Commission at their next available meeting. The Planning Commission will consider whether to extend PUD approval or rezone it to RE1 or another appropriate zoning classification less intense than the development permitted by these PUD conditions. So where we're here tonight is they're requesting an amendment or modification of a PUD that's been dead for 13 years. And in the conditions of the annexation implemented, the conditions were either extension or reduction. There's nothing in the annexation agreement, the PUD agreement, allowing for increase of the development beyond the ratio. And that goes into, as I indicated, there's a history here of these projects, this PUD in particular. And every time when you're reading the agenda memorandum, there's reference back to the Sunnyside Task Force report. The only discussion about modification from the task force report is a prior version was both in the very low and low density, and there was a discussion about vested rights and whether this 1 unit per 3 acres superseded over the 1 unit per 1 acre that was in the county at the time of the annexation. Again, never any discussion that it should be more dense than a maximum of 1 unit per 1 acre. So our position tonight is facially, when we're looking at the staff report and the conditions that were read by staff talking about compliance, number one, there just is facially nothing to indicate whether all the conditions of the Sunnyside Task Force report were taken into account in rendering that opinion, despite that resolution that, to my knowledge, has never been repealed. Secondly, they're requesting a greater gross density than was allowed by either that report or the annexation agreement. The fact that it's being treated as simply an amendment or an extension of something that's been dead for 13 years, I just don't see how that's possible. In a best case scenario, though, if they're going to bring that back on the table, the Planning Commission would have to either keep it at the same or go lower. There's nothing allowing it to go up. So our position is based on the code, based on the based on the Sunnyside report and the various resolutions and ordinances implementing it and the PUD history for this property, allowing for greater development than 1 unit per acre is simply not allowable. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tucker?
May I take my mask off also, please?
Correct.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Murray Tucker III, 6839 Tuscola Drive. I just said my name is Murray Tucker, but I wrote it down, so I'll say it anyway. I'm not a public speaker. I am third generation to be born and raised in the Sunnyside community. My great-grandfather, Emmett Peter, is credited as a pioneer of Lake County and built his house in Sunnyside at the turn of the century. So we have a combined 120 years of living in the Sunnyside community. I live 0.76 miles from my great-grandfather's house, 0.84 miles from my grandfather's house, and 0.27 miles from the house where I was born. In my almost 52 years of living in the Sunnyside community, I've seen plenty of changes. As a child, Sunnyside was almost all orange groves. In fact, at that time, Lake County had almost 13,000 acres of citrus. But a freeze on Christmas Day, 1983, changed everything. More freezes in 1985 and 89, plus a citrus canker, put an end to the citrus in Sunnyside. People like my grandfather were older. They planted pine trees instead. So did everybody else. And over time, the land was broken up, sold, and development began. In 2001, we were seeing a surge in annexation and reckless development, and the Greater Sunnyside Property Owners Association began to fight these. These fights led to a committee being created known as the Sunnyside Task Force. All aspects of Sunnyside were looked at, from traffic density, from density to traffic to all environmental aspects. It laid the groundwork for the responsible future growth of the Sunnyside community. Everything the petitioner said has already been done, and in this report. It's already been done for him. It laid out the groundwork for what direction Sunnyside was going to go. It was adopted by resolution for both the city and the county. The definition of the word deceive is to cause someone to believe something that is not true, typically in order to gain some personal advantage. The residents of Sunnyside were flat out deceived. Leesburg government told us what we wanted to hear, and when we turned around, they did what they wanted. If that is a deception, then I don't know what is. I know almost everybody on this commission personally. A couple of you I've known pretty much my entire life. I know this is not the kind of government you want to be associated with. Luckily, there's a solution. The PUD being brought up today is dead. No construction began and no extension was filed, so the conditions were never met. The petitioner knows this, and he knows that it doesn't meet the criteria set forth in the task force resolution. They have had since the end of January to bring something new to the table, but they have not. Instead, we're here talking about a PUD that expired around 13 years ago. Therefore, I'm respectfully asking you to vote no on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. I have a list of people that wanted to speak.
I have one more to speak, if that's agreeable.
Please, go ahead.
David Collins, would you speak, please?
Please state your name for the record, please, sir, and where you live.
David Collins, 7070 Sunnyside Drive.
Thank you, sir.
So just a couple of unprepared things. But first, on the environmental report, which was done in the summer of last year, if there is a new one submitted, I would like to see it, but the only one that we could dig up was from last summer. There's multiple animals that potentially are of concern on that property. There's gopher tortoises, potentially. There's indigo snakes, which are endangered, potentially. There are 2 eagles somewhere out there because they buzz my house and go right over to where the development is every single day. So I'm assuming that they've got to land and sleep sometime. As far as there's a couple other animals. There were scrub jays. There was a type of lizard endangered that's native to this area called the sand skink. My understanding from the developer's environmental report, because I'm going to quote them, was that the only time that you can check for those animals was between March and May 15th of every year. And if the survey is not completed between that time period, you got to wait till the next year. So anybody else who has a copy of the environmental report can see that the developer put that in as their environmental report. I find it kind of amazing to believe that they did a full environmental study of 157 acres, because basically when you look at the environmental report, it's none seen, none seen, none seen, none seen. You know what? I am fat and I am old and I am slow as heck. It would take me a long time to look for animals that burrowed underground on 157 acres. So I question that, significantly question it, and I think it's just an absurd report. Beyond that, they're supposed to be filing every 30 to 60 days, I believe the report says, reports on eagle sightings in that area. Not aware that one even has been submitted. That's supposed to be submitted to the government, feds. I've seen no evidence of that. Certainly, I've no evidence of the sand skink study, and there's certainly multiple species of skinks living out here. By the way, I'm a veterinarian, which is why I'm babbling like this. So I question that, whether you can slap 157 or whatever homes into an area like that without actually having spent the time to look at it. And I realize somebody might have gone out there 2 or 3 or 4 times. But for example, the eagle requirements are somebody be out there for, I believe it's 60 to 90 minutes, and they have to be there pre-dawn and at sunset as well. There's no mention of that, although there are certainly recommendations in the environmental report that that needs to be done. And quite honestly, beyond that, I mean, we moved here 2 years ago. And the reason we moved here was beautiful town, but I will tell you, I love the house that we moved to. It's a 5-acre lot. All the lots where I am are 5 acres, and certainly if I knew there was a housing development that was going to pop up literally on the other side of my fence, I certainly would never have bought that house. I would never have moved down here. As much as I like the town, I would have picked a place that...
Okay, sir, I'm trying to limit. If we give everybody 15 or 20 minutes to talk, sir, we're going to be here till sunrise. So
you have no idea how long I can talk for. It's frightening. My wife will testify next, by the way, that I'm the longest talker.
I agree with your wife.
But, so I mean, really, honestly, this is the idea that you can throw 157 houses in and say it's not going to have any impact, but if it does, you're all kind of messed, because it's now our responsibility to take care of these services required for their 157 houses. What this comes down to, pure and simply, is greed. There is no reason to build 157 houses there except for somebody to make money. Greed may not be illegal, but it is certainly a deadly sin, and it really is just a horrible, horrible thing to do to an area as beautiful as that is. It's just terrible.
Okay, sir, you've made your point.
And that is my point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask that we try and keep our comments to 5 minutes or less. I don't mean to be rude, but there's a lot of people that would like to speak, and we want to get everybody that wants to speak something to say. I have a Mark Artney that has filled out an application to speak. Please state your name, sir, and your address.
Mark Arney, 7393 Sunnyside Drive.
Thank you, sir.
So I did observe eagles right across the street from me, right across the property from the Sunnyside Landing. And for the record, that identification was Eagles Nest 005 by the Florida Designation Wildlife Commission. I sent that information along to Dan Miller. Dan, did you receive that information on the Eagle's Nest?
Yes, sir, I forwarded it to the applicant.
Thank you. Did you also receive a picture of a gopher turtle that is an endangered species that was in my front yard heading for the coal property?
Same answer, yes, sir.
Thank you. In the letter dated January 23rd, Leesburg City officials of the Planning and Zoning Division recommended approval of this project, and they did so again today. The developer's Sunnyside Landing concept plan, thereafter referred to as the plan, calls for 159 homes as small as 1,500 acres. I heard 1,800 acres. Can you please verify that it's 1,800 acres and not 1,500, because I've seen it listed twice. Once 1,500 acres and once 1,800 acres. Can you verify?
Where did you find the 1,500 acres? We use square feet for houses, and it's 1,800 square feet on the 70-foot lots and 2,000 square feet on the 80-foot
Well, I only
lots.
have 5
Excuse me,
minutes,
excuse
so
me.
I will.
Please allow me to finish. Thank you.
I will provide you with that information.
I'm sorry, sir. I'd like to finish speaking. Thank you. It is, again, 1,800 square feet on the 70-foot lots, 2,000 square feet on the 80-foot lots, and 2,400 square feet on the 150-foot lots.
I have a document that states that it's 1,500 acres. I don't have it with me, but I will show that. I will send that to you, Mr. Miller. So what people need to understand is when they quote gross densities, that's the gross acreage that we're talking about. And when you take out 62% of that for wetlands and for clear spaces, the densities are actually, in reality, which we all live in, a real world, 5 homes per acre, okay, 3 to 5 homes per acre. You heard the attorney state that Lake County, which has a future use plan, it's called 2030, is incompatible with this recommendation. The recommendation that was made by city officials states that it is compatible with Lake County future use. It is not compatible. I'm referring to policy, Comprehensive Planning, Horizon 2030, Lake County Policy 1.2.1. Recognition of Sunnyside community states the county should develop and enforce this policy, land development regulations for Sunnyside planning area consistent with the Sunnyside Task Force. The study was adopted by Lake County in 2004 and Leesburg City. It is still in force. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Next person is Julie O'Reilly, please. Julie. Please come to the microphone, state your name and where you live.
Good evening. My name is Julie O'Reilly. I'm at 6990 Sunnyside Drive. Basically, what I had asked for was how to get a copy of the environmental impact study so that we could see what kind of impacts there would be to Lake Harris, what kind of impacts we would see. I know we've touched on the wildlife and just things that, you know, you think about when it comes to the lake. This land we're talking about seems to be rather flat, but immediately it goes straight down into Lake Harris for the hill outside. And when you think about the environmental impacts to the lake, fertilizer, pesticides, what comes out of, say, dishwashers, washing machines, the sulfates, the detergents, these are going to get into the land. How are they going to flow down into the lake, and what kind of impact would that have? I know you've talked about this being city water and sewer, so we're not talking about the septic tanks and the water table that a lot of us do deal with that are up on Sunnyside.
No septic tanks allowed out there, ma'am, for this project.
I'm sorry?
There'll be no septic tanks allowed for this project.
Right, I heard that. So that's, again, that's not part of what I was asking. But just, I was really asking for
Sure.
that. I left my email address. And if there's some way that we have that, I haven't seen any of the documents. I don't know how many people have. And I'm interested in looking at them and the environmental protection. That was my point.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Charleston Hayden.
My name's Charleston Haddon. I live on 7140 Sunnyside Drive. It was originally property of Emmett Peter, and I believe I've got the oldest barn in all of Lake County on my property. Since I was a child, I've looked at bald eagles right there on the hill across from Camp Horizon. I've seen a panther cross the street there. I've seen bobcats cross the street there. Today, when I was leaving my house and my property, I watched a family of turkeys on the side of the road, and when I looked back away, I almost hit another one that was crossing right in front of me. And I heard some talk of the cost of sewer needing to be covered by 35 units. I keep hearing these terms, units. And I wonder how many people are considering the value, if you can even put value, on the life experiences I've had and most of these people have had, some of their children have had, and the experience that you take away from any other children, any other families that are living in that property, in that area. Not to mention if you've even considered the fact that all of those living creatures have been there much longer than any of us. And it seems like it's more of a crime to even consider taking away all that land. Do you know what the square footage of 1 acre is? Does anybody know that on the commission? Can you tell me that? Yes, sir?
43,560.
That's right, exactly. So I heard the width of one of those lots is 80 feet. So you know how deep that lot would have to be? I believe it's around like over 400 linear feet deep for that to be one house per 1 acre. So you know what one of the last gentlemen said was it's not reality putting, you know, if you say we're going to take 10 acres, but we're going to leave 7 of them and we're going to jam 10 houses in this little 3-acre spot, is that really putting 1 acre on one house on 1 acre? I was just happened to be passing through some of my stuff the other day, and I came across these two old like newspaper and magazine clippings, and speaking about Sunnyside Bell and the groves that Emmett Peter had, and if a lawyer can sit up here and speak about the impact that traffic wouldn't have on that area, well, he hadn't probably driven there more than a few times. And it's pretty ludicrous for anybody who hasn't lived there to try to come up with some of these statements speaking on it. And I just, it's hard. It almost brings me to tears to think about the possibility of greed taking over the wildlife that's there, and the value and the quality of life that the people have that are there.
Thank you.
If you're not sure, I'm definitely in opposition to this.
Thank you. All right, Joe O'Lear. Again, Joe, we'll try and keep it short and sweet. You're doing a good job.
Hello, my name's Joe O'Lear. I'm currently having a house built on Gibson Terrace. I purchased the property a couple years ago. Still not done yet, but I bought the property because I fell in love with the place. It is a country road. It's a country place. And now this big development putting in, it's just going to make where my hometown is Orlando, it's going to feel like Orlando. And why would you want to have Orlando out here? I don't know. Having my house just started construction, my impact fees, based on what I paid, the 159 homes will pay $2,623,500, 2.6 plus million in impact fees based on what I paid. I don't know, they may get a deal, I don't know, but that's a lot of argument to say yes for this. But what's not an argument is what it's going to do to everybody else here who gets ignored for the big bucks, the 2.6 million. That road going to Lake Terrace, just as you turn the second bend, is a joke to say that that is an adequate road. I've been kind to my wife when I said it's a quaint country road. When I pull up on it, I have to pull over and let somebody by because it's just not big enough. So with 159 homes, figure at least 200 cars going to work in the morning, 200 cars coming back. That's a traffic jam on that road. And you're looking at a half-hour period. Everybody goes to work at 9 o'clock. So you're leaving at 8:30, you're coming back at 5:30. That's ridiculous. I thought at least when I heard they putting in sewer, I thought, well, that's okay, that's good, okay, sewer. And I said, well, they're going to improve the roads. They're going to put bike paths, sidewalks. Nope. Have you seen the last 2 feet on either side of the road right there? It's crumbling. I know this because I pull over into it and it's rough. It needs to be upgraded. That's a joke to say that we have lying eyes that that road, some unknown, somebody looked at it and said it was fine. That's a joke. That's all I have to say. So I'm against it. I hope you guys vote against it. It's going to change the character of this town. It's going to make it like Orlando. And I don't think you should do that. Thank you.
That's good. I know it's hard to keep enthusiasm down, but if we can keep the applause to a minimum, we can carry on a little further. Michael Stowell, please. Please.
I only found out about this a couple of weeks ago when the zoning signs went up. I wasn't really aware of what's going on, so I don't have a lot prepared. But 2 things I want to point out. First of all, about the roads. You had a traffic study done that you paid for that tells you that the impact is minimal, or that the road network is adequate for the addition of several hundred trips a day. You did not mention that I heard about increase in commercial traffic, especially in these times. We have FedEx trucks, UPS trucks, Amazon trucks, landscapers, pesticide companies, all their commercial vehicles going up and down. Plus the construction equipment is going to do a number on that road, and it's going to make things very difficult for the residents of the area to get in and out. Those of us that live, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say, my address was 7617 Frog Log Lane, so I live south of the proposed development. We have 2 ways to go, this way or that way, to get in and out. When the hurricane came, there was trees down on this side and there was trees down on that side. Thank God nobody needed an ambulance or anything to get in. But to say that the impact on the road is going to end at your entrance or on your property line, therefore you're not responsible for any impact that goes beyond that at the rest of the Sunnyside Road, is ludicrous. It is going to impact further on. Just 300 feet south of where your entrance is going to be is a goes down the hill, the road goes down the hill, it's a curb. It's got curbs on either side. You have to either wait for a car to come down the hill, or you're at the top of the hill, you're waiting for a car to come up the hill, because two cars can't pass without driving up on the curb or into the grass. The second thing I want to do is about precedent. Approval of this zoning change sets a precedent for the rest of the area. If I heard correctly, you said that this fits in with the city's planned transition from urban to rural. You've just made a roadmap for other developers to come in and get annexed by the city and then apply for a variance. And pretty soon, Sunnyside will not be rural anymore. It'll be subdivision by subdivision by subdivision. I noticed that there has already been several lots of land that have been cleared in other areas of Sunnyside. Don't know what the plans are for those. As far as going from city, transitioning from city to rural, the south border of that development is only about 100 yards from the lake, maybe 200 yards from the lake. We're transitioning from city to rural, 200 yards of space that's rural space, and then the rest going all the way up to Sleepy Hollow is going to be urban. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's basically all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I have one more. I think this guy already spoke. David Colas? Okay, I thought you did. Okay. Greg, I'm going to give you a chance to stand up and point and counterpoint, answer some of these concerns. And of course, all of y'all out here know that those are county roads, they're not city roads. I presume you know that. That doesn't change anything, but they are county roads.
If you'd put in my... Whoa. Okay. Top one. Okay. Go to the master plan. The color master plan. Okay. And some of the comments that were made, first of all, the comment made on the task force. The City of Leesburg, when they passed their resolution and the original PUD, when it was adopted, and everybody got upset that it appeared that the original master plan violated the task force. It appears, and it wasn't my client. In fact, we met to try to figure out how they allowed the first PUD, which takes into account the parent track, not the annex piece, went to 120 units. And if you look at the task force map of the very low and low, it cuts the property right about in there where the parent track is cut. It appears like 60-40 between the very low and the low. And so what it appears is that, and we can't find any verbiage because you can't find anything in the minutes, that the City Commission basically took the last sentence of the resolution and moved accordingly, where it states, unless otherwise approved by the City Commission. And they just moved on and approved that PUD. And they just have that language within their resolution, which doesn't exist. It appears in the counties. And that seems to be their out language and what they used on that previous approval. On the item of the discussion of transportation support, we believe our traffic analysis again speaks to, and all traffic analysis speak to levels of service. And I'm not going to beat that dead horse. We do realize the transportation is a concern, and we'll do whatever the Lake County Public Works wants us to do to address our transportation issues. We have to. It's a requirement of the City of Leesburg. It's a requirement of Lake County. when we come to get our permits here, work with them on modifying this curve and doing the improvements along our corridor. We'll do what we have to do. There's going to be a new traffic analysis prepared when we move this forward, if we're allowed to. It's a more in-depth analysis than the one we've already done. And that will address some other issues which we'll have to comply with. The other item was the environmental. Our biologist has been on this site more than just last summer. Every time Dan Miller gets a request, our environmentalist goes out there. The Eagle's Nest is not out there. The gentleman who spoke of you have to go out there and check every 6 months and all that, and that's for monitoring of Eagle's Nest. We don't have one, so we don't monitor the Eagle's Nest because it's not on our property. The Eagle's Nest is off-site. The osprey nest is over here, and osprey is not an endangered species. Therefore, it's there, and we'll have to deal with it when we get there. Eagles have been actually taken off the endangered species list, by the way, folks. Actually, Florida panthers are a nuisance species, and my house right now, I have wild turkeys in my backyard. I have bobcats. I have all kinds of wildlife running around, foxes and everything else. And they're in my backyard.
Let the gentleman speak without interruption, please.
And we're going to have another environmental analysis done when we do our St. John's permit. They're going to have to go through and do an in-depth analysis. So we're going to have to do that all over again. In fact, what we're probably going to have to do is more than one if we do this project in phases. The sand skinks, the reason we haven't done a follow-up on the sand skinks is because you do have to wait till March. And so you can only do a sand skink analysis in March. You can't do it in April, you can't do it in February or July, August, or September. You have to do it in March. You have to put your plywood board down, and you have to wait and lift them up later in the spring. It'd be a waste of time to do them now. So, in fact, by the time we get to it, it would be next March, but we'd like to get through this process. If we get through this process and we're fortunate to get approved, then we'll hire the biologist to go back out there in March to do them. The next item was asked about what do we do about stormwater. Well, you'll notice there's this large green space here on the lake. That's for stormwater retention. That's also to gather anything that's on the property going downhill. Since we aren't going to use St. Augustine, we're going to use Bahia. That'll also retard a lot of the fertilizer that's required to maintain the lots. These are all the large lots. They'll also because of the fact PUD requires management plans, St. John's also wants to protect this. We'll also have to go through the St. John's permitting process. We can't do pre and post impacts on our neighbors, and we can't discharge anything off-site. So St. John's will be controlling that aspect. Another item is, I hear discussions about densities, and we're turning into Orlando. My mother just moved out of Orlando to the Villages. I know what Orlando is. I moved to Orlando in 1969. I can tell you 1.1 point something units per acre is no Orlando. Orlando is densities from 6, 10, 20 units per acre. This is not Orlando. Also, next slide. Claremont is becoming Orlando. And this density, this density no way reflects
Let's keep
what's going
comments
on
to
in Claremont.
Let the gentleman speak.
Yeah. This shows you all the lots that are developed in and around Sunnyside that are similar to our lot sizes and densities in and around the Sunnyside area. Red his lot size is less than half acre. The next one is half acre to 3/4. The other one's 3/4 to an acre, and the green are an acre to 1.25. As you'll notice, our project is the one in red, and you notice that basically the concept that we are in a rural environment is kind of, well, maybe, maybe not. Next slide. Then you overlay the wetlands. You'll notice that our project is sitting in here, and we basically have taken the wetlands out of the development scenario, and by choice, we've also, where a gentleman mentioned the fact that, well, we actually have a net density of 5 units per acre. Well, you take the wetlands out, but we also added upland areas for recreation purposes by choice because it's a PUD. And we added those areas by choice because as a PUD, we then had, yes, we have smaller lots, but we kept the densities at 1.1 overall gross, but we have open space. You'll notice these subdivisions don't have any open space. They have wall-to-wall houses. Next slide. We did an analysis of how we affect the boundaries that are the properties that abut our site. This is the area to the north. This is the site in general. This is the south, and this is the 18 acres. Next slide. Here's to the south. We only have, this one partially hits Sunnyside. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots on our common property line to the south. We have a tract to the south in a subdivision that is not going to be developed, and the nearest house is over 400 feet away to our houses. Next slide. This is to the north. Again, we have a buffer area that's green space. If this was a regular subdivision, the houses would be butt up against the side to the property line. We've elected to put green space. We have 4 lots, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have these 6, but there are no houses here. There's one house here. Again, our houses would be here, over 365 feet away from the nearest home to the north, and this one's over almost 250 feet away. Next slide. And this is the 18 acres. We have 4 homes, the largest homes abutting the common property line, with a buffer green belt on the common line. Next slide, please. Oh, go back. That one's about, can you see? 101 feet away. Pardon me? It can be there, it can be higher up here. We just picked a spot. No, the White House is going to be a clubhouse. The recreation area is going to be here. Next, go back to the slide where the wetlands are with the subdivisions on it. There. We did an analysis of the densities of the properties or subdivisions that are already around us to see how compatible are we to the existing development patterns that are here. Since we kept hearing that we're in such a rural area. And we found out that, we're not quite as rural abutting us than you may think. This subdivision here which is just south of our 1 unit per acre area, actually is the exact same density we are, 1.1 unit per acre. To our west, I'm just saying the lot sizes and the area of the subdivision computes to 1.1 units per acre. The subdivision that's due west of us, we actually have common boundaries. We have green space. This subdivision is at 2.3 units per acre. That subdivision's name is Shady Dell. There are lot sizes in there that vary from 8,700 square feet all the way up to 11,000, 15,000 square feet in size. They actually had to, because of an old plat, they consolidated lots together to get buildable lots. Density-wise, I'm speaking density equivalency.
Yes.
I'm not talking about number of lots.
Right.
I'm just saying that when you look at the development densities that are adjacent to us, we have densities that are pretty consistent. You have 1.1, you have 2.3. Ma'am, I counted them this morning. The one that's here, this is 2 units per acre equivalent. I just counted them this morning and did the math about the lot sizes. The ones that are here come out at 2 per acre because of the lot sizes. And I can keep going all the way around. That when you look at the lot sizes themselves, based on the number of units and the size of the subdivision, when you look at it on a density basis, because the lot sizes are like 0.75 units per acre, that it's an equivalent density very similar to what ours is. So you have an equivalent development pattern in these pockets that is similar to what our subdivision is. Now, they're not all consolidated in a package like ours, but the densities are there. Like Siskey Plat, well, I'll go back to Frog Lane. Some lots are 0.46 of an acre, 0.46, 0.56. Johnson's Point has lots that are 0.56, 0.36. Harris has 0.40, 0.38. You have lots in there that are varying in size, but those lot sizes, therefore, when you start adding them together and doing averages, they come out to equivalencies. Oh, I don't disagree. There are lot sizes out in here that are over an acre in size. There are lots over in here that are 5 and 6 acres in size. I'm not going to dispute that. But when you look at subdivisions that are platted that are in this part of the Sunnyside area, there are subdivisions that are out here that are equivalent in densities as we are.
Mike.
I actually looked at the lot sizes. So, when we look at development patterns and densities, they're there. And I'll be glad to answer any questions from the board. I'd like to point out one thing, if I may. Ask a question. You have to ask Mr. Bowersox.
Go ahead.
You're putting out a lot of these subdivisions, and yes, they are similar, but they're a lot smaller. Those were planted years and years ago.
That's correct.
I noticed, though, you conveniently left out Secretariat right there, which is 5 acre lots, and in the city.
Yeah.
The city, 5
Again, my statement was, no, what I said was, I did not include 5 acre, 6 acre, 1 acre tracts. I only looked at subdivisions.
I want to give the commission a chance if they have any questions. Commissioner Wood, do you have any questions? Commissioner Halliday, do you have any questions? Commissioner Mike, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question here. How much of the acreage is actually going to be wetlands and preserved? And how much total gross acreage are you putting the homes and the roads and all the infrastructure on?
The master plan shows wetlands and preservation are 44 acres. And we're developing the rest, so it's 77. You 18 and 1 unit per acre, and felt that in the PUD we were doing an equivalency, therefore we brought them in as 18 units on 18 acres.
So in the county right now, if that stayed in the county, a developer would have to have a 1 acre lot.
Yes.
So in essence, if you have 18 acres and you put a road or roads in there, you're going to lose several acres.
You'd probably
might
lose,
end up with 8 or 9 lots.
not 8 or 9, you'd probably lose,
I'm just asking a question. Is that correct?
you'd probably lose, on large lots, you wouldn't lose the same efficiency as 4 units per acre. So you'd probably lose, I would say maybe 3.
3 lots?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, that's, okay. So
Yeah.
instead of 18, you might get 15 lots
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, Commissioner Fraser Marshall, do you have any questions?
I'm good right now.
Yes, ma'am. Could you state your name and you have to go to the microphone, please.
My name is Ruth Ann Blum. I live at 417 Sunnyside.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ruth Ann Blum, 417 Sunnyside. It might just be a math question here, but if you're going to develop 95 acres into 159 homes, that's 0.6 an acre. Is that correct? 0.6 acres.
You do it the other way. You do it. That comes up to 1.6 units per acre.
Thank you.
1.6. units per acre, net. No, for wetlands. For wetlands. No, for wetlands. That's the net developable acreage of the projects less the wetlands. But you don't subtract that for density.
Okay. Greg, I think, you know, I've asked if the commission has any more questions. We've heard an awful lot of information. At this point in time, I'm going to close the discussion. We beat this up real well. Did you enter your name on a questionnaire sheet? Okay. I'm going to limit it one more, okay? Councilor Cawthon, I'll let you speak. And then I believe the commission is ready to make a motion, is the reason I say this.
The question that I would like to...
State your name, please, and where you live.
I'm Dave Cawthon, live at 131, or 8010 Gibson Terrace, out at Sunnyside. I've got a question regarding the Sunnyside Task Force report. I would like to inquire what has changed since Sunnyside worked their butt off and came before this panel, different people, and we agreed, worked out terms for the long-haul development of Sunnyside. I'd like to know what has changed. The agreement, we addressed all of the major issues, and we were told that that was the agreement. Granted, you have a gotcha sentence at the bottom, but no one from planning and zoning came back to Sunnyside and said, we've got a problem with your task force report, and we don't want to follow it. That was never done. So we didn't get an opportunity. It was studied, it was approved by the city, it was a resolution passed by city council that task force was going to fall and was going to be honored. And it was addressing the future land use of Sunnyside. We had it set up as to where you'd have more units per acre, and then south of Sunnyside Drive, it would be 1 unit and 1 to 3. And there's been nothing changed since 2004, except we've got roads that are worse and too much growth, and it's not fallen in compliance with what everybody agreed upon. And we all got up when that was passed and shook hands. We had a deal. And
I think at the last sentence of that agreement says that at the discretion of the city commission, and I'm not going to answer for those folks. That was years ago, and I can understand your frustration with it, sir.
Well, it's kind of like
obviously the discretion changed.
Lakeport, you know, it was represented when they did it that there would be no entrance on the Sunnyside Drive.
Right.
And all of a sudden that appeared, and I guess that's part of the discretion, and that's part of what causes an issue with us.
Correct.
We don't want to be here and fight with the city, and that's why we spent hours and hours and hours working out a deal that has now been thrown out the window.
I understand. Thank you. At this point in time, I'm going to close up discussion and ask if the commission has anything they want to discuss amongst ourselves. If not, If somebody is ready to make a motion, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I got one question
Okay?
to the city attorney. I heard the attorney for Sunnyside states that the policy back in 2004 with Lake County, are we in guideline with that, or do you know anything about that?
I can't speak to what Lake County's policy was in 2004, no. I have no idea.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to ask the city attorney one thing. Regarding the Sunnyside Task Force, is what is presented here, is that proper in regards to the statements that we've heard today in that?
Well, as the chairman pointed out, there's a proviso in there, except as otherwise determined by the city commission, and they did pass the first PUD. Beyond that, there is a substantial body of law to the effect that a municipality cannot bind its police power, including its zoning authority, by contract, and that no zoning issue or case sets a precedent. So despite the fact that that was adopted back in 2004, it is not considered binding on future city commissions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I got one other question. Dan,
Commissioner Frazier, go ahead.
I just want to make sure here now. This is just allowing us to vote on bringing rezoning for this, not for the 159 units.
This would be for all the units, Commissioner Marshall, because the old PUDs expired.
Yes, sir.
So it's like starting fresh from scratch.
Okay.
You can approve them all or turn them all down all at once.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a clarification. Is this property, these properties, in fact, committed to the density that of 120 units at this point by previous?
No, it is not.
So there's no, this is like starting fresh.
Yes, the old PUD expired 13 years ago, as Mr. Broom pointed out in his presentation.
Okay.
It has no force or effect now. So you are not bound by anything that was done back then.
So to say that it was approved for 120 units 13 years ago, it's not approved for that number today, is that correct?
No, absolutely not. They could not do that today as we sit here.
So we're not grandfathered in and we're not committed to that. Okay, thank you.
No, there are no vested rights under an expired PUD.
I understand everyone's frustrations out there. I lived in Sunnyside. I know the area. Sir, we've closed off the discussion. And I understand the roads. I've driven them. What I'm really amazed at is y'all haven't gotten united and done something with the county about the roads. Because, you know, it's going to have to be done someday. Now, I know that the rural roads can make it tough to develop on, and maybe that's the reason behind it. But I asked if any of the commissioners was prepared to make a motion on this, and I got a nod on a couple of them. I don't mean to be sneaky, but in this room you gotta communicate, and it's hard to communicate from 20 or 30 feet away. Is anyone ready to make a motion on this item?
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
All right, Commissioner Halliday, please make a motion.
Make a motion to approve or deny case number PUD-19-222.
You make a motion to deny?
Approve or deny.
Approval. It's hard to understand you with a mask on, sir.
Make it for approval.
I have a motion on the floor for approval of the Sunnyside Plan Unit Development. Do I have a second on that motion? The motion dies for a lack of a second. Please understand, let us finish the business here, okay? Do I have an additional motion?
I make a motion to approve PUD 19.
That was the same motion we just had, Frazier. There was a motion to...
I just wanted to change it
Okay.
to the 1 unit per acre.
Okay, Commissioner Frazier is wanting to... You see, there's a misnomer. When you say 1 unit per acre, that could be a quarter-acre lot. Because when you subtract the wetlands out of it, you reduce the size of the lots. You see what I'm saying? So when you say 1 acre, you've got to say you want the square footage of that lot to be 1 acre. Is that what you're saying?
I withdraw my motion, sir.
Okay.
You want to change the PUD to 1 unit per acre? Did you just want to change the PUD to 1 unit per acre?
That's what he was suggesting. Okay. I'll ask one more time. Is there a motion on the floor? We have had a motion to approve. It died for a lack of a second.
I'll make a motion to deny case number PUD 19-222.
I have a motion on the floor on hearing case PUD 19-222 for denial. Do I have a second to that motion? I have a second from Commissioner Wood. Please let us finish our business. Let us finish our business, okay? And again, I'll remind you that this is a recommending body. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And I want to state personally for me, the reason I vote for denial is not the homes, it's the roads. And that's the biggest problem, and all you have to do is have one child run down or somebody killed out there because of the roads. Okay, that's it.
Mr. Chairman.
The commission will take a 5-minute break.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a quick announcement, please?
We have an announcement, please. Please. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of the city commission dates, which are currently scheduled for September 14 for the first reading. And that's just a first reading. Usually no decision is made. Nothing happens there. And then the second reading where the decision occurs would be November 23rd. So you're welcome to call my office, to come by, and we will update you on those dates if they change. But you need to reach out to us, please, if you're worried about the dates. Thank you. Hey.
Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. Under new business, we have a public hearing case on the James Landing rezoning. Where's Dan? Okay. We'll wait on Mr. Miller to come back and brief us on this one. Candy, I don't think you can go in the men's room and get him. If I'd had this done all over again, I'd had you all go first. I'm sorry. I should have done that. Hindsight's 20/20. Okay, Daniel, we're ready to get into the new business. Public hearing case PUD 2086, James Landing rezoning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is case PUD 2086 James Landing. This is a request for a recommendation to the City Commission for a single-family attached and detached subdivision. The zoning request is to amend the existing PUD approved in, I believe it was 2005. Apologize, Mr. Chairman, I wrote the wrong one there. This particular PUD was previously approved. This particular property was previously approved under ordinances 13-41 and 0797. Within this area, there are approximately 30.53 acres, and the request is to rezone it to PUD to have two different options on the development, which we will go into later. At this time, we'd like to ask Candy Harper to present the maps and photo exhibits with the aerial zoning, surrounding property owners, future land use, CRA, wetlands.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Chairman, this map is showing you the location of the property. A good intersection for it would be Citrus Boulevard or 441 and Park Holland 466A. It's at the north and the south of Park Holland Road. And this is a proposed zoning map because of the size of the property. It will go up to the Department of Economic Opportunity for review, and they like to see what the proposal is going to look like. So this is showing you that it will become a planned unit development. And this map is showing you that it currently is a planned unit development for the most part, and then there are two sections of it that are R3. This is Lake County zoning. This is one of those spotty areas, but around the property is also residential. And our future land use map is compatible with what you see in the zoning. It is high-density residential for the most part on the property, and then low-density residential to the south and east with a little bit of conservation. And Lake County future land use shows urban medium density around the property. So it's all residential. The surrounding land uses further illustrate the residential nature to the north and south. There is some commercial mixed in, groves and wastelands. And this will show you where the wetlands lie on the property as well as the flood zones. It is in, part of it is in the 27441 community redevelopment area. And we posted the property and took pictures of the posting itself to the south, and then looking east along Park Holland, looking north across Park Holland, and looking west along Park Holland. And then we moved down or across the street actually to the north piece of property and posted there, and took a picture on the other side of the road looking east, and then south to where we had just posted, and then west along Park Holland. And then we posted again, as this is a long drawn out piece of property. There's a posting again. That's east along Park Holland, and then north across Park Holland from the sign posting, and looking west along Park Holland at the top. And finally we posted a little piece of property that's on the extreme eastern end of the properties. This is looking north and west along Park Holland, and then looking east on Park Holland, where we posted the last sign. And then the map on the bottom has little red stars on it to show you where those signs were actually posted. And that's all I have, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Candy. Moving directly into the departmental review summary, we didn't receive too many comments back on this. Public Works did not know if flow tests had been conducted, so they did put a note in there about that. They'll work with the developer if that becomes necessary. As far as public responses, this one was a little different, Mr. Chairman. We received no disapprovals, and 1 no comment, and 5 approvals. So I think this will be a little easier case. Moving on to the Planning and Zoning Division recommendations for James Landing PUD, single-family residential development, PUD 2086. The Planning and Zoning Division is recommending approval of the request for the following reasons. 1, the proposed zoning designation of PUD is compatible with the surrounding adjacent properties having zoning designations of City of Leesburg R3, high-density residential, R1, low-density, PUD, C3, highway commercial, public, and Lake County R1, which is rural residential. 2, the future land use designation of high-density residential and conservation is compatible with the surrounding adjacent properties having future land use designations of City of Leesburg, high-density residential, estate, general commercial, conservation, low-density, and Lake County urban medium density. 3, the proposed request is consistent with the city's growth management plan, future land use element goal 1, objective 1.6. The action requested is to approve the recommendation to rezone subject property from City of Leesburg R3 high-density residential to PUD planned unit development and forward to the City Commission for their consideration. A brief overview of the PUD again is 30.53 acres with 2 development options. Option A would be a maximum of 52 detached single-family units on what we're calling the main parcel, plus a maximum of 16 detached single-family units on parcel A and B for a total of 68 units at a gross density not to exceed 2.4 units per acre. So that's the detached option. Then there's an option B, which would be 52 detached single-family units on the larger parcel and 22 attached single-family units, meaning basically townhouses, on the other parcel A for a total of 74 units at 2.5 units per acre. Everything else is pretty standard. 15,000 square feet of recreational area, 10-foot landscape buffer, decorative split rail fence, and fences between the neighborhoods. Everything else is a standard PUD, traffic study required, landscaping, residential standards, Nothing out of the ordinary that you haven't seen before on this. The applicant is Pillar Homes. That's Michael and Kevin Boutros. They're here today to answer any questions, and Mr. Darcy Unroe of Unroe Engineering, I believe, is also here. So any questions you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
We are recommending
Dan.
approval.
Does the commission have any questions of the applicants? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve case PUD 2086 James Landing rezoning.
Speak into the microphone a little closer, please.
Motion to approve case number PUD 2086 James Landing rezoning.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second motion from Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen. Sure was a lot easier, wasn't it? All right, moving right along, fellas. Under new business, public hearing case VAR 2142, Lake Denham subdivision entrance sign variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is case variance 20-142, Lake Denham Estates subdivision sign. This is a request for approval of a variance to the city sign code requirements, which would allow an off-site sign. Candy, if you would please go ahead with the exhibits, and then I'll fill in the background.
All right, this is the aerial showing you the location. Longtime Leesburg residents might not recognize Armoyan Boulevard, but it's just south of Magnolia. And the sign is going right where that little arrow is pointing off of the subject property. It's going right on that corner. And the zoning is planned unit development, and across the street is a small planned unit development, and it's mostly commercial in nature along that area. Lake County zoning shows commercial across the street and residential. The future land use shows commercial around the whole area, east and west. And Lake County has residential north and south, and residential across the street. And then the surrounding land uses support what you've seen in the other maps. It is commercial, either an ongoing business concern in the commercial corridor along 27, or it's vacant commercial with residential in Ravenswood to the north. And this map shows you where the wetlands and the flood zones are, not anywhere to do with where they want to put their sign. And it is in the 44127 community redevelopment area. And these are pictures showing you the area around the sign as we posted it. The bottom picture is looking south along US 27 from where we posted the sign. Top picture is looking east along 27, and the last picture is showing that we did post the sign, and then a close-up of that posting, and that's all I have, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Candy. Mr. Chairman, by way of background, there's one sign on the north side of this property right now for Lake Denham Estates. It's a subdivision sign, and normally we do not allow off-site signs under our code, but subdivisions normally do have two entrance signs. At some point in the past, the applicant, or maybe it was the ownership at the time, split the property, which kind of technically created this situation. They did a little commercial section. So staff reviewed the request and advised that they go for a variance. Staff then reviewed the variance and find that in our opinion, the variance does not technically meet all 6 criteria. Normally it takes all 6. I think it probably met about 4 of them. However, looking at this, there's no harm done in allowing this variance, and I need to say that. So based on a straight reading of the code, staff has to recommend pretty much a denial, while understanding that if you look at this from a common sense standpoint, there's no harm done. We just have to go by the code. I did talk to Ms. Amber Coleman, who is the attorney representing the property this morning. She brought to our attention section 25426. We've always interpreted that as being in regard to billboards. Should you approve, then it's no problem anyway.
I think we're ready to deal with it.
Thank you, sir.
I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
That's variance 20-142. Have a motion to approve, and I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Is there anyone representing the owner here in the audience? May I meet with you after the meeting? A different matter. Thank you.
Y'all have done a beautiful job out there. I was blown away when I first rode out there and saw the elevation that y'all were able to create out there. It was really wonderful. Okay, if there's...
One announcement, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
if I may. We'll be advertising in, I believe it's this weekend's paper for additional planning commissioners. The terms, I believe it is Mr. Wood's term and Mr. Coleman's term are coming up at the end of September. So we're advertising for those if you know of anyone that's interested. And those will be in, I believe it's this weekend's paper and next weekend's paper. And we encourage, if at any time, staff always encourages the members to reapply. So.
You mean mine's not up yet?
No, we still got you for a while.
Oh, dadgummit. Okay, if there's no other business before this commission, we'll stand adjourned.